So, I'm Sammy Verghese, co-founder and CEO of Degen Labs. I'm here to talk to you today about how innovation beats iteration, what that means for the future of NFTs, and specifically what we're building at Degen Labs. Now, little disclaimer before I jump into the slides. I was a victim of a hit and run a few weeks ago, just over a month ago, in fact, and had to spend a lot of time off work. So when I actually booked this talk in with Milo, it was on the premise that we would have already launched our project. Obviously, a lot of time in hospital and on the sofa means that we are behind schedule. So you guys will be the first people in the world that find out what we're building outside of our internal team and our investors. However, I've had to redact some of it. And also, don't judge me on the quality of the slides. This was fairly rushed. So what is innovation? Innovation, in the Oxford English Dictionary, is the introduction of new ways, ideas, or ways of doing something. Cool. But how I like to think of innovation, how Degen Labs likes to think of innovation, is something that changes the course of industry and or human behavior forever. Now remember that point, because that theme will run through everything that we're doing and building. A few examples of innovation. I'll be quick on these because some of these are fairly boring, as my girlfriend told me. The compass, the magnetic compass. So the humble compass, obviously fairly redundant these days, replaced by the satellite, GPS, etc. But opened the seas, opened the world, opened civilization essentially to globalization, made the world a smaller place, changed human behavior forever. The magnified lens. Now, that allowed human beings to peer into the cosmos, understand our place in the universe. But not only that, it allowed for the innovation of the microscope, allowed scientists to see within our body, changed human behavior forever. Paper currency, internet. I'm definitely not going to speak to you guys about the internet and how much of an innovation that is. So we'll skip those. What is innovation? What is iteration? Sorry. Iteration is a new version of something that already exists. Hugely important. Iteration is still hugely important within companies. If you're a product manager, if you're a designer, iteration still holds a lot of weight. The UI, UX developments within a platform, within a technology, etc. Examples, I've actually stolen this example from Simon Sinek, but it's a good example of iteration. Colgate. Does anybody know how many different versions of Colgate there are on the market? 27. 27 different versions of the same product. They're just different iterations of the same product. Does that mean that increases adoption of brushing your teeth? No. Does that change the way humans interact with brushing their teeth? No. It's just an iteration. I'll say just an iteration. Still important because it's important for market share, but it doesn't change the way humans behave. The iPhone camera, every time we get an update or we update our contract, we get a new camera, 4K camera, 3 cameras, 2 camera, 1 camera, face camera, back camera. But that doesn't really change human behavior. We had cameras long before smartphones. We had cameras long before phones. Essentially, we just bundled 2 technologies together. CBDCs, I'm not going to get into because that's a whole can of worms. Well, actually, before we get into that, so why the hell am I on stage talking about the difference between compasses and Colgate? Well, I believe, and hopefully some of you in the audience believe, that blockchain has the power to be one of the world's greatest innovations. It just suffers from a PR problem currently. Hacks, scams, fraud, etc. People are shying away from blockchain, and they're shying away from the concept of blockchain. Now, why is AI on the slide? Well, everyone understands AI. Everyone gets it conceptually. That's because AI has existed in the collective consciousness, in the zeitgeist, since 1872, the first novel, the first mention of machine learning, but with intelligent machines. So we've all grown up with AI. We've grown up with the idea of AI, but we haven't grown up with the idea of blockchain. Blockchain enables radical new business models. It allows communities to participate within projects. It allows communities and individuals to interact and own assets for the first time. Now, obviously macro view on this, so there are probably varying levels of expertise in the audience. So I'm not going to dive too deeply into this, but Bitcoin is classed as an innovation in my mind. Bitcoin was the first trustless, decentralized, and censorship-resistant currency on the planet to ever exist. Now, why is that important? That's important because of a few examples. If you just think about the Canadian trucker incident, the protests, etc. So in Canada, for those that don't know, the Canadian truckers were protesting against the government and certain rights, etc. I'm not going to get into the political side of the debate, but it turns out that Justin Trudeau and the Canadian government decided to block the accounts of anybody that was donating to the Canadian truckers' cause. Now, that's a civil liberty. That's a right. That's your right to protest. But the Canadian government, the people who controlled the money, blocked your bank accounts. So even if you were just somebody on the street and you said, hey, this is a great cause, I'm going to donate to you, they blocked your bank account. You couldn't feed your children. You couldn't pay your electricity bills. Bitcoin, solves this problem. Bitcoin is censorship resistant. You own it as an individual and nobody can take it away from you. Similar to Ukraine and the Russian invasion. When the Ukrainians were fleeing, rightfully, that's their right to flee, the right to take money out of the banks did not allow them to take that cash out. Now, again, that's fractional reserve banking, and turns out that even in the UK, like if every single person in the UK tried to get their money out of a bank could only afford to pay you 10%. Now, again, Bitcoin solved this problem. That's an innovation. It changes human behavior. It allowed the Ukrainians to convert their cash, the digital cash, in their banks to Bitcoin and move it across the border. An innovation. Ethereum ushered in the dawn of the smart contract. I'm not going to go too deep into this. Most people understand Ethereum, but allows projects to build decentralized applications. Now, how important is a decentralized application? Is it going to get mass adoption similar to Bitcoin? Is Bitcoin going to replace the US dollar, the British pound? My view, controversial for somebody who works and breathes the blockchain world, the Web3 world, I don't think Bitcoin takes over currency. I don't think Ethereum takes over AWS, for example, but I think they are great alternatives and they're great innovations for people that need those innovations. DAOs. Now, DAOs are a funny one. Again, for anyone who doesn't actually know, so a DAO is a decentralized autonomous organization. Now, that allows communities all around the world, borderless, to be able to control and govern structures, corporate structures, governments, potentially councils. Now, could that be an innovation? Could that change human behavior? I think DAOs above Bitcoin and Ethereum could potentially change more human behavior than ever. Think about a government, for example. Now, we elect individual parliamentarians to essentially vote on behalf of us. But if you look at their voting records, how many times would you agree with their voting records? If you had a token in the UK economy DAO or the UK political parliament DAO, you could choose to delegate that token to a representative of your choice, or you could choose to vote every single time on any issue you wanted. You don't have to take part, but you could. DAOs, potentially huge innovation. But anyway, hopefully that gives you a little bit of an idea of how we see innovation and how we see iteration. Probably different to most companies and organizations, but what we're really here to talk about today is NFTs. So what is an NFT? Well, an NFT is a cryptographic asset on blockchain with unique identification codes and metadata that distinguishes them from each other. It's a non-fungible token. Absolutely no branding awards to whoever came up with that. Essentially, this goes back to the previous point. It's a communications PR disaster. This is why potentially I feel that blockchain NFTs are struggling with adoption, not to mention UI, UX, etc. But really, what is an NFT? Well, an NFT is a digital certificate of ownership attached to a blockchain. That's the important part, the digital certificate of ownership. And it's attached to a public blockchain. So anybody can verify that at any time, permissionlessly. Somebody in China, somebody in Chile can verify that you own that asset. It can be a company, it can be an individual. So what can a digital certificate of ownership actually mean? Well, theoretically, it's anything you could own. It could be deeds to your house, How are we living in 2023 these days, and you still have physical deeds for your house? You have to file those deeds with the government. Could that not be an NFT? Nobody could ever change that NFT. The issuer of the smart contract could change that NFT, which means it's provably your house. You don't have to rely on physical bits of paper. Passport as well. Personally, blows my mind that we still have to carry around physical passports, travel the world, and if you lose that passport, what are you going to do? You have to go to an embassy, you have to go to a consulate. That can be an NFT. It's a digital certificate of ownership. So Hal Finney was actually the first person to conceptualize NFTs, digital assets. And he penned a letter to what he called the cypherpunks, all the way back on the 17th of January, 1993, 30 years ago, slightly over 30 years ago, he was talking about NFTs, essentially. And he was talking about cryptographic trading cards that can be bought with digital crypto-based currencies. Hal Finney was a pioneer. He is an icon, a cult hero in the technology space. Unfortunately, he passed away early and prematurely, but it's no surprise that version 1 of NFTs, which are currently on the market, have taken much of the structure of what Hal Finney discussed. So what are the different types of NFTs on the market currently? Well, art. Art is one of the great use cases for blockchain and NFTs. Think about fake Picassos, Rembrandts, etc. If you had that bit of art and you could put it on the blockchain and that was an NFT, you could provably own that. Anybody could provably own that. And anybody could check whether that authentication or authenticity was real. Video game assets. This one blows my mind. Like, there is a huge amount of uproar in the video game space about not allowing NFTs within video games. I don't know if anybody here works in the video game space, but I would love to speak to you after to pick your brains on how that works. But essentially, think about video games and how they work. In-app purchases, in-game purchases, even trading your time to level up on level 50 on Call of Duty. Why can't you own that? Transpose that into a physical world. I could buy this laptop, I could buy that projector, I could buy that projector screen. I could use that for however long I wanted. But once I'm finished with it, I can sell it. So why do I have to buy a new car on a racing game, a new gun on a first-person shooter game? Why can I not then sell that to somebody else who wants that? Video games will be, in my opinion, a huge use case for NFTs, and it's shocking that it hasn't got that far. Music NFTs. Rihanna in the news relatively recently. So she did the Super Bowl halftime show, and she performed "Bitch Better Have My Money" or whatever it's called. That was part of a wider campaign. So what she did was she sold 300 NFTs. Those NFTs allowed the owners of those NFTs to claim future royalties on that track forever. Now, a little bit of a piss take, I know it's recorded, apologies, but unfortunately, she only gave away 1% of those royalties. But the idea, the innovation is there. Just think about how that multiplies in terms of future artists. If you saw Ed Sheeran, if you were lucky enough to see Ed Sheeran in a pub or a club when he only had 10 fans, 100 fans, you could have bought one of his music NFTs. You could have supported that. And with that finance, he didn't have to go to a record label. He could have published his own music. He could have cut out Warner. He could have cut out Sony, who he pays 60% of all his revenues to. Music NFTs could revolutionize the face of the music industry. But PFPs, digital identity, IP, that's the sort of big one. That's how everybody sees NFTs at the moment. Monkey pictures, pixelated bits of art. And sort of rightfully so, to be honest. Like, that is the engagement tool. That is how we can build communities. That is how we can build digital identity. That is how we can build tribes across the world who have common purposes and common goals. So what do NFTs look like now? I'm sure probably most of you have seen these. That's a Bored Ape in the top left. That sold for something like $3 million relatively recently. Fairly mind-blowing. But even more mind-blowing, the CryptoPunk in the middle, That is another PFP IP sort of play, and that sold for $11 million. The Fidenza, top right, that is a art project valued at something like $200,000, $300,000. And bottom left is the Rihanna NFT we were just talking about. Snoop Dogg, not Decentraland, Sandbox, digital land, digital metaverses, another use case for NFTs. My personal favorite, though, the crypto dick butt. So that is right. Anytime you give humans the ability to, they will inevitably find a way to draw a penis somewhere. Turns out, some of you might actually know this, but turns out that there's actually a term for it. It's called TTP, time to penis. And it's the mathematical equation for how long it takes a user to draw a penis on a bit of software or technology. So what do all these have in common, minus the penis part? Well, it's intellectual and digital property and community creation and engagement. Now, I want you to remember the second paragraph that I'm about to read out, because again, that theme is all about Degen Labs. So the reason human beings are top of the food chain is not because of individual strength, but because of our ability to innovate as well as form tight communities and cultures, and to be able to communicate within those networks to achieve common goals. But before I get onto the Degen Labs side of things, the future of NFTs. So an NFT can be anything. Essentially, that little sentence there is our fascination at Degen Labs and my personal fascination. An NFT can be anything, any object. That is the route to mass adoption for blockchain, not because blockchain needs to be mass adopted, but blockchain should be mass adopted because of NFTs. On-chain resumes, credit scores, any store of value, that's essentially everything an NFT can also be, and people are currently working on these things. Perhaps in 5 or 10 years, you won't be showing somebody your CV, you'll be showing somebody your wallet. Your crypto wallet will hold all your certification in it, will hold licenses, the companies you work for, the causes you support, the charities, your credit score, your taxes. Slightly dystopian, but potentially possible. And yeah, every big non-Web3 brand is currently working on an NFT strategy at the moment. There is a study, I think it's something like 83 of the top 100 companies on the planet are all working on some type of NFT blockchain strategy. Hugely bullish on NFTs. But hopefully that gives you some sort of context in our thesis, who we are, how we see innovation, how we see iteration, and what the blockchain sort of ecosystem currently looks like. Little break for water. But now, the introduction to Degen Labs. So, as I was saying at the beginning of this, way behind schedule, and this talk also caused some issues. So I haven't got any further slides on this, so I'm just going to talk to you about what we're doing, what we're building. So essentially, Degen Labs is trying to revolutionize how wealth is created, how communities co-create brands, and how value is shared and equally distributed among those communities. So how did we come about? What's our story? Essentially, my co-founder, I've known my co-founder for 10, 12 years, but he came to me with this idea. I say he came to me, he actually texted me, and he was in Mexico and he was pissed off his face. And that's where every good idea starts, I guess. And he texted me a lot of ideas, mainly all crap, to be totally honest. I know this is recorded, I haven't said that to him before, but a lot of horseshit. But finally, he stumbled upon something. Why don't we co-create a distillery with a Web3-based audience? We sell an NFT, and we allow all of those NFT holders to join in on strategy, on branding, on marketing, on what product do we sell next? How do we sell it? See if people around the world can really co-create a brand. So we started building Degen Distillery, etc. And we were building this NFT project, this great NFT project, and it was just, at the end of the day, it was just another NFT project. We were adding utility to it. We were doing everything that everybody else on the market was. But we stumbled across the problem. If we have a global audience, if we have holders in China, in Chile, in Canada, in Australia, how do we get a physical product that is made in the UK, and how do we get that to have global distribution? So we ended up being true to ourselves and innovating. We built a first-of-its-kind solution. That solution essentially allows us to convert our communities, so any member, optionally, of course, it's not forced, can go through a short training course. Once you complete that training course, we essentially let you off into the wild, into your local jurisdictions, your local geographies, and your job for us, or for yourself as well, is to onboard accounts. Now, those accounts can be anything like a pub, a restaurant, a club, a corner shop. And once you onboard those accounts and they purchase our spirits and our liquids, we pay you a commission. Now, I know what you're probably thinking. You're probably thinking, sounds like an affiliate scheme. Well, sort of is, and that's why it's actually called the tokenized affiliate protocol. But the really, really revolutionary, innovative part of what we do is once you onboard that account, we attach that account. So that pub, that restaurant, that venue, we attach it digitally to your NFT, which means you own that account. You own that NFT, which means you own that account. Nobody can take it away from you. I can't take it away from you. The business can't take it away from you. Nobody can take it away from you, which means essentially you get a commission for life as long as that venue is purchasing our spirits. So think about this in a classical sales structure. The classical sales structure is you get paid pounds and pence, dollars and cents, whatever it is, into your bank account. What is that essentially? That is a receipt for your time. You bring in value for a company, but you're not able to accrue any real value. You're not able to accrue any wealth. It's only the shareholders that accrue any assets. So flip it back into our model. Now, our model, the more accounts you bring on, the more value that you create for yourself. You start using your NFT as a pseudo-type business. Again, classical structure. As your revenue and profit goes up in your business, your valuation of your business goes up. As the revenue and profit of your NFT goes up, as you onboard more accounts, as you create a portfolio, the value of your NFT goes up. You're able to do what anybody can do with an asset. You can sit back and relax on that passive income. You've onboarded 50, 100 accounts, whatever it is. Sit back, relax, go on a holiday, sit on a beach. You can sell it. It's yours. You own it. If you're making 100 grand in revenue, 3, 4, 5 times earnings on the market, you can sell it for 3, 4, 500 grand. Or the really degen thing, you can put it into DeFi. You can use it as collateral. You can take a loan against it. People take loans against houses all the time. That's their asset. That's what they can do with it. It's your choice. It's your NFT. So cut to the chase on the technology side of things. We were speaking to our sort of investors, our advisors, and every single one of them was like, well, we've got a distribution problem with our portfolio company, or hey, I've got this company, or I'm a founder of this company and I struggle with distribution. I struggle with incentivizing my team. That was our light bulb moment. We realized everyone needs this, everyone wants this. So we started building slightly differently. We are now building in a 3-phase approach. We were initially going to build a bricks and mortar distillery and run that ourselves, blah, blah, blah. We're not doing that anymore. We are outsourcing that. We have partnered with, the cans are on the table actually, we've partnered with Brewdog. Brewdog are now running our distillery. It's a global partnership. And they are manufacturing our spirits, our liquids, helping us with logistics, supply chain, etc., listing us in all 120 venues. So from day one, we're in Vegas, we're in London, we're all around the world. Phase 2 is our community. We train our community. We give them the support they need to be able to prove the business model, to be able to prove the incentives, to be able to prove the idea that you can really co-create an international brand and share that value with every single person who interacts with you. Phase 3 is we open the technology to allow any other company to leverage. Now, think about it as a platform. So the more companies that join, the more users, the more sellers there are. It's a network effect, it's a flywheel effect. There are similar companies that have tried this in the past, not on a technology basis, not on a blockchain basis, but in a direct sales model. Now, the most famous one you've probably heard of is Avon. Avon is a multi-billion-dollar cosmetics brand. Now, that cosmetics brand was built on the back of tens of thousands of direct sellers all across the world. Slightly different. I mean, they were B2C. The direct sellers would sell to their friends and run events, etc. But think about it. If any one of you wanted to launch a makeup brand tomorrow, and you could plug in directly, permissionlessly, nobody could take that away from you, and you could contact every single Avon direct seller across the world, how important, how impactful would that be to you? And then you could incentivize them by having true ownership in whatever value they bring in. You would wipe the floor with Avon. Avon can't compete with that. That is essentially what the tokenized affiliate protocol will be. So our go-to-market is still very similar to most NFT projects. We will be releasing a PFP-style collection. However, that PFP will sit upon TAP, the tokenized affiliate protocol, and allow any user to add value back into the ecosystem in terms of sales. That is, again, phase one of TAP. We are looking to add new ways in which the community can interact. So our sort of thesis on how work will work in the future is people won't have 9-to-5 jobs. Not everybody will be sitting in offices. People will be plugging in and plugging out of gigs. The gig economy is now represents nearly 47% of the US, for example. So we would also like to add different amounts of, or different avenues into TAP. Do any of you write code? If we needed a swap platform, you could write that code. We could attach a royalty to that platform forever to your NFT. As long as we use that, you can build value. You can add value back in. Not just add value back in, but you can extract value back out. That is the whole premise of TAP, what we're building. And yeah, at this stage, I think that's it. I'm not sure if I missed anything, but there are a few other bits and pieces that we will be launching and announcing very shortly. However, like I said at the beginning of this, we had to actually take out every single slide because there were quite a few secrets in there that we haven't announced yet.